Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for some more SPTV, where every day is a great day. Not to be in a cult. Not a good day to be in a cult. Guys, I do not do videos every time a Scientologist I know passes away or a famous Scientologist passes away. But sometimes there are circumstances where I think it is actually relevant to discuss what has happened and use it as an opportunity to take a little bit of a glimpse into the real beliefs and the real practices of Scientologists, and to look at some of the ways that Scientology's beliefs and practices result in real world harm, and in many cases, loss of life. When Kelly Preston passed away, when Kirstie Alley passed away, you know, those, I did videos about those deaths as an opportunity to discuss why so many Scientologists die of cancer. Even though it's not against the rules in Scientology to see a doctor, it's not against the rules in Scientology to get chemotherapy, it's not against the rules in Scientology to get surgery, and yet so many Scientologists die of cancer, particularly high-level Scientologists. Kirstie Alley and Kelly Preston were both OT8. That's as high as you can go in Scientology. There's no higher level. That's Tom Cruise level. And in this case, in the last few weeks, 3 young Scientologists have died. And basically anybody my age or younger is someone I consider young. I have to remind myself I am 44. I think I'm technically a middle-aged man at this point. Hard to come to terms with that. All 3 Scientologists who've died in the last few weeks are about my age. And only one of them did I personally know. And I just found out about the other 2 today. One of them was an accident. I covered that. I actually did do a video about that. That was Drake Sweet. It was a spearfishing accident. It seems like he got tangled up on the bottom, had some difficulty surfacing, and his body was not recovered. Some of his equipment was recovered at the site of his last dive, but his body was not recovered. Pure accident. The other 2. So Drake Sweet is the one we've already discussed. The other man is a young man named Paris Bosserman. I did not know him, but I did know his father. And the other is a man named Wesley Krause, and I did not know him or any of his family members. Between Paris and Wesley, I'm told one of them is for sure a suicide. And the other one is possibly, because I do not know which one is which for sure, I'm not going to say I'm not going to specify one or the other. Paris Bosserman, there are comments online that his death had to do with addiction. That would tend, by process of elimination, to go, okay, well, maybe if that was an OD, then maybe the other one was a suicide. But the truth is, addiction could also be related to suicide. And I'm not trying to speculate, and I don't want to give incorrect information about either one of these deaths. Anytime a young Scientologist dies by suicide, it is impossible to ignore the real world, real life destructive effects of Scientology's war on mental health. Scientology's war on mental health results in an awful lot of deaths in Scientology. And yeah. And again, I'm just making that as a general statement. That statement is not directed at either Wesley or Paris specifically, but it's just an unavoidable fact that in Scientology, nothing is considered more evil. It's hard to truly believe that Scientologists could believe this. Nothing is considered more evil than a psychiatrist. And in fact, there's a reference that L. Ron Hubbard wrote that is not broadly distributed in Scientology, that psychiatrists are actually the exception to the fundamental Scientology axiom that all beings are basically good. That psychiatrists specifically come from the planet Farsec, and are literally the exception to Scientology's belief that all spiritual beings are fundamentally good, and they're capable of becoming evil, they're capable of doing evil. But when you strip all of the things off of the being that have caused them to be or do evil, they are fundamentally good. By the way, Will Smith, when he was in Scientology, tried to make this point. I think it was on the Letterman show. And he very poorly tried to explain how even Hitler was basically good. That did not go over very well. Also, Will Smith, because he never admitted he was in Scientology at the time, didn't have the luxury of explaining that he was trying to give context to a Scientology belief, and he just came off sounding like a Hitler apologist. Oh, Will Smith, always getting in his own way. Okay, so Scientologists' war on mental health. Yeah. Nothing is more evil than a psychiatrist, and nothing could be more shameful or degraded than seeking mental health treatment from anyone in the psychiatric, anyone even remotely under the umbrella of psychiatry or psychology. Like even seeing a guidance counselor in school is considered like one of the worst things that could happen to the child of a Scientologist, because guidance counselors are psych influenced. In fact, it's the reason Scientologists usually don't send their kids to public school, because they say the schools have been influenced by the psychs. Okay, so I want to show you where this information is coming to us from, because even the source of this information is a little unusual. It's a little unusual for Scientologists to broadcast this stuff on social media, especially since this is being broadcast by someone who is not a member of any of the families involved. The only reason the Sweet family ended up putting what happened to Drake on the internet is because they did a massive fundraiser and raised over $112,000 to continue for the search and recovery efforts for Drake's body. You know, they didn't just like announce that Drake died for the sake of it. They did it, you know, it was in the context of a fundraiser, and they spent at least a week searching for him. Other than that, it's unusual for Scientologists to put this stuff on the internet. So let's take a look at where this information is coming from. Zoe Lim, also known as Zoe Abbott, which I think is unusual because neither of those names are her married name. She's married to Brian Fowler. These are both Clearwater-based Scientologists. So she puts up a post here, and I'll share the next screen. Okay, Zoe says, the last few weeks have been a bit heavy. As a mother, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the parents of these young men. My heart aches for the parents, those who wake to a world forever changed. I cannot conceive of a pain deeper than outliving one's child, a grief that defies the shape of words. To carry life only to carry loss is a sorrow no parent should ever know. Our community is so close-knit that most of us either grew up with Drake, Wes, and Paris, or were touched by their lives in meaningful ways as adults. They will all be missed. Why don't I see the other photo here? Give me a sec. I want to make sure I don't miss anything up here on the screen. Okay. All right, here we go. And then she shares some really nice photos, actually, of Drake and of Paris and of Wesley. Okay, so some of my thoughts on this, I have more to share with you, but some of my thoughts on this, come on, let's get this right. I think Zoe's statement, our community is so close-knit, is almost an inadvertent admission. What close-knit actually means is small. Our community is so small. And any Scientologist knows that. Any ex-Scientologist knows that. All of you out there who've watched a lot of the videos of all of us ex-Scientologists know that we all seem to know each other. We all seem to be separated by 1 degree of separation. It doesn't matter whether you're from Europe or Los Angeles or Clearwater or Australia. We all know the same people. And that's because Scientology really is that small. There's only about 20 to 25,000 Scientologists in the world at this point. You know, the Bosserman family was originally a California-based Scientology family. Now they live in Florida. Drake, the Sweet family, to my understanding, was a Florida-based family for a very long time. And I'm not actually sure about Wesley's family. I also think it's a little interesting. I sort of commented on this earlier, but a little interesting that she is sharing this information about other people's families. And what's remarkable, one of the remarkable things is that in the comments section, there's an unbelievable number of people in the community who had absolutely no idea that these people died. And so she's sharing the information. I got to be honest, if I was one of the family members, I'd be a little pissed off. I wanted to show you the comments section on this. There's other screen shares that I have for you here. But the other sort of teachable moment here is how fucking cold-hearted Scientology's belief system is when it comes to loss of life. And one of the comments here serves as an unbelievable example of this. And I can't even believe that Zoe has left this comment up, much less that some people have liked the comment. Remember, guys, in Scientology, everything is your fault. Anything bad that happens to you is your fault. You've done something to pull it in. That's the Scientology phrase, because you as a being in Scientology are considered to be fundamentally all-powerful. And that, you know, you've been around for 76 trillion years or 67 trillion years. I always get it backwards. And that even if something happened to you horrific as a child, it's because of something you did in a past life. And only when you've accepted full responsibility for what you did bad that caused you to pull in this flow will you cease to experience any negative emotions about the bad things that happened to you. And therefore, anything you're upset about is something you haven't actually taken responsibility for. Doesn't matter how horrific the crime is that has been committed against you. If you are upset about it, it's because you haven't taken responsibility for your role in it. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these comments. Some of these comments also serve as a pretty good example of how Scientologists will just lie about what they really believe on the internet. Okay, Martin Sherman, well-known California-based Scientologist. His daughter, Kara, was one of my juniors in the Sea Org. We will see them again very, very soon! Exclamation point! We don't go far. Okay, we'll see them again soon. That's, of course, referencing Scientology's belief in reincarnation, but in a very superficial sense, not in some deep spiritual, you know, you have to accomplish one, you know, goal in one lifetime. And until you do, I won't claim to understand what other religions truly believe about reincarnation. But in Scientology, they believe it's literally, they call dying dropping the body. So they go, you drop the body, you shoot over to the local hospital and just pick up a new baby body. And you just grow up all over again. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime on this prison planet. And the people who are keeping us imprisoned on this prison planet in these prisons of meat bodies are, you guessed it, the evil alien psychiatrists who man the Between Lives implant stations located either on the moon or Venus or Mars. And that's where they wipe our memories, and we're programmed to report into the implant station every time our body dies. We report to the implant station. They wipe our memories. They beam us down into a new baby body, and that's how they keep us imprisoned on this planet. Now, Scientologists believe that with enough auditing, you have enough spiritual awareness and ability to bypass the Between Lives implant station so that when you pick up your new baby body, you have full total recall of your previous life, including all of your Scientology training, and you retain all of the spiritual gains that you got from your Scientology auditing. That's how they pitch it to you in Scientology. But honestly, look at the inappropriate, in my opinion, inappropriate excitement. We'll see them again soon. Yes, don't be sad that they died. We're going to see them again soon. And let's look forward to that. Okay. And honestly, there's a lot of very, 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 very nice comments here. Oh my God, Martin Sherman again. He's back for more, you guys. An interesting cycle of action and quite a beautiful experience in times like these is to clear the words. In Scientology, that means looking up the definition of the words in a dictionary. Clear the words and study the funeral service. Try it. We're all spirits. Oh, thank you, Marty. Oh, what? Oh, and whenever someone I know dies, I just like busting open Scientology's funeral ceremony and putting together a words list and jumping into the Webster's New World Dictionary or the Webster's Young Reader's Dictionary and just having a good old time looking up the words L. Ron Hubbard used for the funeral service. Always a good time. Thank you, Marty. By the way, one of the things I found interesting is that everyone in the comments section who's asking how these people died, silence. No one has responded to any of the questions about how any of these three died with any information. And part of me goes, that's the kind of question I would also ask on a post is how did they die? How did they die? I have heard that's rude to ask that question, but I kind of go like, what was the point of announcing on Facebook that they died? Like, first of all, they're not even your family members, right? You're announcing deaths in other people's families. What was the point of making the announcement if you're going to leave everybody in mystery? I don't know. That's how my mind works, but who knows? Okay, check this out. Annie Brown Hulsey is the one who decides to take a piss all over this parade and basically quote L. Ron Hubbard's information for essentially how it was their fault. Okay, Annie Brown Hulse says, I am very, very saddened by this, but not a great scenario to use a but. You know what I mean? Like you should end the sentence at I'm very saddened by this. I'm very, very saddened by this. But what is more, I am very pissed off because all of these could have been avoided. Boy, I'll tell you what, when you are expressing condolences to families who have lost children, what you really ought to do is go on the internet and say how these deaths could have been avoided. See, I got to tell you, this comment right here is why I decided to do this video. Honestly, these deaths could have been avoided based on a book. I wonder which book it is, Annie. Based on a book I read regarding what causes people to have accidents and illnesses, these losses could have been stayed. Quote, that all illness in greater or lesser degree and all foul-ups stem directly and only from a PTS condition. PTS equals potential trouble source equals someone connected to an antisocial personality and thus liable to cause trouble to others because of it. Jesus Christ. It's so fucking soulless and heartless. Potential trouble source. Yeah. Liable to cause trouble. Those pesky Scientologists causing trouble to everybody around them by dying because they were connected to antisocial personalities that they did not spot and handle and disconnect. How dare them? I'm pissed off at them. I'm pissed off about it. Scientology tech was not properly applied, and that cost lives. That's what this fucking bitch is saying. Okay. A foul-up, a condition of difficulty or disorder brought on by inefficiency, stupidity, etc. Quote comes from the ethics book by L. Ron Hubbard. What piece of shit Scientologist liked this comment? Matt Limpright, know him. Sarah Nassim Nadimi, don't know her. Leslie Fox, don't know her. David Mervin, don't know her. Jesus Christ. Who jumps into a comment about 3 people dying and says they could have avoided this if they weren't PTS? Unfucking believable. Jessica Greenwood, I know her. Brad Kugler, I know him. So Brad says, as a parent, it's more than I can confront, the loss of a child, whether young or in adulthood. My thoughts, prayer, and postulates go out to all who have lost someone. I hope this is the last one for a while. Jesus, Brad. First of all, this is a weird example of a Scientologist pretending that they pray when they don't. There's no such thing as prayer in Scientology. They don't believe in a God. They don't believe in a heaven. They don't believe in a prophet. And neither do I. But I'm just saying I also don't pretend to pray. And I don't say my thoughts and prayers are with you. Now, I know saying thoughts and prayers is just kind of a polite thing to do. I always find it, as a former Scientologist, I find it cringy when Scientologists do it, because I think if you're going to say that, you should at least believe in prayer. But, maybe I'm being picky. Also saying, I hope this is the last one for a while. I don't know how much time should go by before it's acceptable for another Scientologist to die, Brad. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, guys. Maybe I'm just in a mood. Autumn Webster. Okay, this is a weird one. Wes and I were just discussing him potentially purchasing my beloved 65 El Camino a month and a half ago. Damn, I'm sorry, Autumn, that you're not going to be able to sell your car. We really meshed, and I knew I'd like him even more in person. This is just a lot. Too many young lives all at once. I mean, it's a nice comment, just a little tone deaf. Let's see. Oh my God. Nea Porta. I had no idea of Wes. He was my Purif PC. So the Purif refers to Scientology's purification rundown. That is Scientology's detox program. I've actually almost never heard anyone on the Purif be referred to as a PC, but technically they are. A PC means pre-clear. Pre-clear is the word used for anyone getting Scientology auditing. And even though it's hard to call sitting in a sauna and taking vitamins auditing, the purification rundown is actually the first step on Scientology's bridge to total freedom. And so technically it's an accurate statement. Okay, June, I knew one of these three young men, and my heart goes out to the families of all of them. Okay, good comments. Let's see. Here we go. Judy Marcus, we'll see them down the road, no doubt. And in the meantime, they'll carry the love expressed by those here. My heartfelt condolences to the parents, siblings, and others who were close. Okay, decent comment. Most of these people in this comment section are Scientologists. And this is actually Wesley Krause's stepmother, to the best of my knowledge. Beautifully expressed, Zoe. Thank you. Sending love and condolences to all friends and loved ones. Like many have said before me, we welcome their speedy return with open arms. A bright future is ahead for all. I feel like I don't want to just keep striking the same note. And I don't want to come down, be too cynical and be too critical of people who are trying to be happy. But honestly, the reason it really rubs me the wrong way is because the same Scientology belief that causes them to not actually care when someone dies, the belief that causes them to not really care when someone dies, that the body's unimportant, so death is unimportant, and you're just going to come back anyway, is the same belief that causes them or allows them to so callously justify enforced familial disconnection. And that is that bodies don't matter and bodies aren't really real. Like you're a being, you occupy a body. So your parents aren't really your parents. You're just your body is just the genetic offspring of their bodies. And that your parents as beings are not, you as a being are not the offspring of your parents as beings. And that familial relationship is just sort of an agreement. It's just almost, what's the word they use? A social construct. That you really don't have parents. There's no such thing. Thetans, which is Scientology's word for the being, Thetans don't have parents. So if Scientology tells you that you have to disconnect from your parents, it doesn't really matter because they're not really your parents. And so, these beliefs are used to justify or are enforced on Scientologists for why negative emotions are actually not okay. It's actually aberrated. It's very woggy. Wogs show negative emotions. Wog is Scientology's word for a non-Scientologist. It's kind of like muggle in the Harry Potter world. Never mind the fact that it's also a racial slur in about half of the world. And L. Ron Hubbard undoubtedly knew that, but he chose that word to be the Scientology word for a non-Scientologist, even in countries where it's literally a racial slur. Good on you, L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, so yeah, this belief is like, it's a Scientologist who believes in Scientology and applies Scientology tech would never be misemotional, their word, or upset at having to disconnect from a family member because it's no different than anyone else, really. And being upset that someone dies is also not really okay, because why would you be upset if you actually believe in Scientology? So the truth is, like part of me wants to sympathize and be empathetic that, you know, Wesley Krause's parents, I'm going to show you his father's Facebook post shortly, are almost enthusiastic that Wes now has a new adventure to go off to. And it just really pisses me off. I just can't get around it. It just really pisses me off because I know the Scientology belief that is behind that. And it's a belief that leads to a lot of destruction. Okay, so let's see. Angie Cologne, I know Angie. Look at this. Angie's like, what? I knew about Drake, but what happened with Wes in Paris? Crickets. No one jumps in. Kevin Gilliard, Drake, Wes, and I, among many other friends, all hung out together daily during 2000 and 2001. We were all a crew, and now, my God, this sucks. Okay, let's see. Was there anything else here that I wanted to highlight? No, you can just see, like Jessica Vernil, she was someone I was in the Sea Org with. Kim Ford, someone I was in the Sea Org with. Ferris Monge, she used to be Ferris Stith, someone I was in the Sea Org with. Let's see. Okay, so there's that. Next, I'll share with you Wesley Krause's father. To the best of my understanding, he says that Wes was his son. For some reason, has a different name. So I don't know how to explain that. I did not know Wes or his family. But let's see what Wes's father has to say. Dear friends, I have a sad message. Wes, my son, passed away yesterday. So on April 5th. I know so many of you who knew him loved him. I am sad, but only in my selfish way. Okay. At this point, I have no regrets about my relationship with him. Okay. I always told him I loved him unconditionally and felt he was my son by choice, which I never regretted. Why would you regret him being your son? Now, by the way, when a Scientologist says I felt he was my son by choice, what that means is Scientologists convince themselves very often that when they are about to have a baby, they will telepathically communicate with the being that is going to occupy the body. And they basically have an agreement. They agree. Yes, you want this body and we want you to have this body because we want you to be a member of our family. That is what this means. I will miss him, especially as I grow old. All right. I mean, I feel like you'd miss him more now than later, but okay. I miss him, especially as I grow old, as I have so many good memories of him growing up that I would love to share with him. I don't have much more to share at this point. Please keep Wes's mother, Donnie Krause, Nicole, his sister, and the Sparks clan in your prayers. I do not know what the Sparks clan refers to. I appreciate all the love from everyone. I want to share with family and friends a picture that best reflects my memory of Wes. He is free. He's free. Okay. So this is actually celebrating that for Wes, dying was a good thing. He was not free when he was in his body. He's free now, though. Don't be sad. It's okay that he died. He's free. This was not bad. This was good. Rubs me the wrong way because I know where that comes from. So I didn't know Paris Bosserman, but I knew his father, Mark Bosserman. When I was in the Sea Org in Los Angeles, I was the technical secretary at Asho Day, which is a Sea Org organization. And Mark Bosserman, I think I have this memory correct. I believe he had my exact job, but in the organization next door at the Los Angeles org, at the LA org. He was the technical secretary. The LA org at that time was not a Sea Org organization. So the staff members there are on 2.5-year contracts or 5-year contracts. So Mark was a LA-based Scientology staff member. He's now a Clearwater-based Scientology public. I've searched all Mark Bosserman's profiles. He does seem to have had a very good relationship with his son. I've not seen any posts from Mark about his son dying. In fact, Mark and his new wife just recently had a baby a few weeks ago. Let's see. Here's one thing I'll share with you. It looks like his son was at one point in a band. Sorry for the formatting on this. It says, let me try to see if I can change it. Love Hate Hero. So he was in a band called Love Hate Hero. Love Hate Hero bassist Paris Bosserman has passed away. The band Paris. Okay. The band took to Facebook for the first time since 2018 to share the unfortunate news. It is with great sadness we announce the sudden passing of Paris Bosserman. Paris played for LHH from the very beginning in 2003. He was an incredible person. He was an incredible showman. Always the life of the party. He made you feel great anytime you were with him. He was our brother, and we're really going to miss him. Rest easy, brother, until we meet again. It's a very nice post. This is the Facebook page. Basically says the exact same thing. And here is his father, Mark Bosserman's Facebook page. Mark himself was a pretty talented musician, singer, performer. And you can see literally just a few weeks ago, he had a new baby. Absolutely incredible. Mark is not a young man. And you can also see, this is Paris's Instagram page. He seems to have had a very active, energetic, and interesting life. And, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. And this might sound like an ignorant statement, but I would say that someone who lives a life like this, it's hard for me to believe that they would be depressed. And so when I see statements that said his death had to do with addiction, I tend to lean towards overdose. But I'm just telling you, like, I'm just thinking out loud. I do not have any information about the exact details of how he died. But I did see on one of Mark's Facebook posts, he absolutely seems to have had a close relationship with his son. And, the interesting thing about a Scientologist having addiction issues is also like you have Scientology's war on mental health, but you also have the fraud that Scientology perpetrates in claiming to be the experts in addiction issues. And what that, they have their Narconon drug rehab program, which is nothing but a cold turkey program that uses their purification rundown sauna detox program combined with their Scientology objectives auditing program. And they sell this cold turkey drug rehab program to non-Scientologists all over the country and all over the world. And, these Narconon centers have absolutely no professionally trained people working there. Very much like a Scientology organization, they recruit their staff from people who have just themselves gone through the program. So like in Scientology, when you start taking Scientology services as a new Scientologist, they are very quickly trying to recruit you onto staff because there's so few Scientologists in the world. In Narconon, when people go through the Narconon program, which means they were just addicted to drugs like a second ago, they finished the Narconon program. A decent number of the graduates of the program are the source of recruits for staff members at these Narconon facilities. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So let me see. I didn't go into any of the posts about Drake because we already did a video about that, but we've covered posts about Paris and posts from Wesley's father. If anyone out there in the Scientology world has more details they can share with me about what actually happened with the deaths of Wesley Krause and Paris Bosserman, please send the information to me, even anonymously, at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. I would really appreciate it. Okay, let's look at some starred comments and we will wrap this up. No one says, are one of those the guy who owns that Tampa media company? I don't know what that Tampa media company is, so I can't answer that question. Johnny B, psychiatry is the ultimate evil in Scientology. It's a total war for them. And it has truly terrible consequences in terms of human costs. Yeah. In the annual anniversary event for the International Association of Scientologists, they actually announce statistics for how many psychiatrists were sent to prison that year. And Scientology takes credit for that because one of their front groups, the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, exists solely for the purpose of eradicating the psychiatric profession from the face of the earth. And yeah, that's like I said, they are the exception to the rule that beings are basically good. Mary James says, sad to say, L. Ron Hubbard's demented views on psychology are still impacting members today. Yes. Power lies to paralyze. Good to have you back as a channel member, Power Lies. Abigail, in Scientology, do women have to take the last name of their husbands, or can they keep their own if they want? Oh, they can certainly keep their own if they want. Marilyn Honig, Scientology is so heartless. It's a cult tactic to get people to blame themselves and depend on the cult for validation and approval. Buckled up Buttercup, good to see you. Do Scientologists have any idea how bizarre their implant station nonsense sounds to the outside world? I think they do. That's why they don't talk about it. CO Bilf, OMG, I know it is easy to say the wrong thing when someone dies, but that comment about word clearing the funeral service is unreal. Yes. Mrs. Bramlett Jr. So she's blaming the deceased for being PTS or connected to someone who is PTS. No, being connected to someone who is PTS doesn't make you PTS. So you were correct. The first part of your sentence is correct. She is blaming them for being PTS. She is an absolute ghoul and a moron. Alicia, good to see you. Degraded daughter. Yikes. It's so incredibly sad to see how Scientology views and responds to death. And I can only imagine the feelings they have that they've learned to stuff down to be a good Scientologist. So sad, so inhumane. Kestrel 42, you guys know that a lot of old Hollywood families were warned about Scientology in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm related to one. I was told it was a cult by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Amazing. That's awesome, Kestrel. Sandy McKenna, good to see you. As someone who had a child die, I don't understand how a parent can be expected not to grieve. Yeah. Yeah. So to be specific, what would probably happen is, they would sort of be allowed to show and express and feel and experience the negative emotion because they need to handle it with auditing. And the pressure would be to get them in session as quickly as possible to give them the auditing they need to get over the upset. And it would be considered a flap. It would be a problem. It would be a matter of urgency if this didn't happen quickly. They need to be in session to handle the upset. And partly because they're going to spread the upset to other people. They're going to tie up resources. They're going to upset others. They're going to interbulate people in their environment. They're going to tie up attention that should be spent on Scientology, and people are going to spend attention trying to make this family feel better. So let's get them in session so they can handle the upset and no longer be upset and get back to being a good Scientologist that's not experiencing negative emotion. Chuck Ross, my mother-in-law's funeral was at Celebrity Center in 1976. My wife and I experienced normal human grief and got cold, disapproving stares from the Cybots passing by. Wow. Alicia, I think he says that because his son may have had an issue. I saw alcohol in the comments, but I don't know. So maybe he's saying he's not labeling him. I'm sorry. So maybe he's saying he's not labeling him as a degraded being. Oh. In Scientology, that's kind of nice, I suppose. Oh, you mean his comments about not regretting choosing him as his son? Interesting. Also, sometimes people that are depressed go out of their way to hide it. They don't want to be a burden. That's true. Gabrielle, escaping the cultiverse. Why do these Scientologists sound so freaking awkward and inappropriate? They are so disconnected from reality, and they truly think they're hip and super cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, in Scientology, it's like, they don't consider that, sometimes accidents just happen. Sometimes accidents don't happen. It's like, would it really be so bad if it was just okay for sometimes tragic accidents happen And someone doesn't have to be a bad person in order to have something like that happen to them. Like, honestly, I was thinking about this, as I was digesting all of this earlier today. And it's like, even being in a family where something like this happens to your family member in Scientology, there's an element of shame. It's almost like you've brought dishonor upon the family, that someone in the family was so out ethics that they had something like this happen to them. Because this belief that in order for something bad to happen to you, you have to be a potential trouble source, which means you have to be connected to an antisocial personality, which means you've gone the effect of the antisocial personality. What another part of this belief is, in order to go the effect of an antisocial personality or some other source of suppression, you have to have some underlying undisclosed out ethics situation, or you would not have gone the effect of it. So you have to essentially have been someone who was doing bad things that no one knew about in order to have something like this happen to you. So in Scientology, it really is an element of shame to be in a family where a family member tragically dies, much less by their own hand. And it's like, it's such a destructive belief in Scientology. Anon says, I knew Paris. He died of alcohol poisoning. He was also OT5. He always had a drinking problem. Wow. Alcohol poisoning. Holy cow. I guess the Scientology irony is that OT4 is called the OT drug rundown. Lower level on the regular Scientology bridge, the non-confidential bottom half of the Scientology bridge. After you do the purification rundown and after you do your objectives auditing, there's something called the Scientology drug rundown. And it's an auditing action specifically for people who have a drug history. And the purification rundown is supposed to rid your body of the physical residues of drugs that L. Ron Hubbard said is stored in your fatty tissues. And the Scientology drug rundown is supposed to resolve the mental elements that were associated with any drug use or addiction. So that's supposed to cure you yourself of any drug or alcohol compulsions or any residual effects of it. Now, many of you who've watched my channel and other channels know that when you get onto the OT levels, the operating thetan levels, the confidential levels, L. Ron Hubbard tells you that you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of sick alien spirits stuck to your body. And everything that was wrong with you that you fixed with Scientology is still wrong with them. And you now have to telepathically audit these beings that are stuck to you to fix them and get rid of them. So on the OT drug rundown, OT4, you are basically now fixing the mental elements of all of your body thetans that were addicted to drugs, because that can impact you. So the irony here that this Scientologist had already done all the drug handlings on his own body and his own spirit, and had already completed Scientology's drug handlings for all of the drug addict spirits that were stuck to his body, and Scientology never fixed a damn thing for him. But Scientologists have plenty of explanations for why Scientology would not have worked on him. But guess what all those explanations boil down to? He was a criminal. He was an out ethics criminal. He was committing crimes, present time overts. Overt is Scientology's word for a destructive act. They casually also refer to them as crimes sometimes. Committing present time crimes that he was not disclosing and being honest about. And that is why Scientology didn't work on him. It always comes down to, it's your fault. You're the one to blame. You committed crimes. You're not being honest. That's why Scientology doesn't work. This guy was born and raised in Scientology. Died of alcohol poisoning. It is a shame. Yes. All right, guys, that is it on this for now. That will be the only video I'm doing today. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, dancing for my love, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.